Good afternoon, everyone. Today's video is going to be an unboxing video from a 12 plant shipment that I just received from Indonesia. So I want to show you guys what the condition is of these plants. I have ordered from the seller before and he was phenomenal, and I will be sharing his information with you all. I'm a big supporter of his, and he's a little gem, which I would love to keep secret, but that just wouldn't be fair to not share the plant love. So let's get going. Okay, here we go. Moment of truth. We've got our paperwork. DHL Express Worldwide, our Phyto certificate, looks good. We've got cotton. I should have grabbed a garbage bag. Very soft cotton. All right, this. Well, this time he used a wider box, which I appreciate. And he did put them in plastic because he showed me, I talked to him about it and he recommended it. So he showed me like a comparison between two shipments, and so I said, whatever you think is best. So these I believe are the Pictum tricolors. See, these are packaged in plastic with paper towels around the roots, and there are 5 pieces in this one. This is the Anthurium crystallinum. We had one leaf come off, but other than that, so far so good. The paper towel is still a little bit moist, but I also know anthuriums don't like to be overwatered, so I appreciate that it's not sopping wet. And I am very impressed with these beautiful white firm roots. This came through really, really nicely. Plenty of good leaves. It looks as though we might lose this yellowing leaf here, but that's minor. I'm okay with that. On to the next one. This is the Alocasia Silver Dragon. I know notoriously that alocasias do not ship well, so hopefully this guy came out okay during his journey. These were ordered and shipped last Wednesday. It is now Monday, so it did not take too long. 7 days, 6 days. This guy fared pretty darn well, considering these are notoriously bad shippers. Plenty of big, big leaves, nice and healthy. I'd say about 5 really, really strong leaves. I think about 3 of them we're gonna lose, obviously. We might even lose them when we take out the roots. But you know what? I'm thrilled with this. Great specimen, very, very healthy. The stems are nice and turgid. Let's see what the roots look like. What I really appreciate about my supplier in Indonesia is he always gives me photos of the plants that he's going to be selecting for my order, and he lets me know and asks me if these are okay. And so I signed off on all of these plants before shipment. I was really happy with this alocasia, primarily because I know that they are prone to losing leaves during shipment, and I'm glad that this one was such a robust specimen because it could afford to lose 3 or 4 leaves and still have 5 excellent leaves still to grow on and mature. So let's see what we got here. I'm always very, very careful to unwrap the tissue paper around the roots because as it dries out, sometimes the roots will stick. And I certainly don't want to be pulling off any of the viable roots. They need every little bit they can get to start to acclimate and heal from the shipping process. All right, so we did lose a few of the roots here. But not a huge deal. We've got probably one main root that's still intact. The other ones, unfortunately, I think are root rot. They're not gonna fare real well, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull those off right now before I go ahead and lay this guy in some water overnight. We do have a leaf or two that are probably not gonna make it, so this one's totally kinked over. I'm just gonna get rid of it right now. And, but otherwise, thrilled with this beautiful Alocasia silver dragon. Absolutely thrilled with it. Thank you. All right, moving on. We've got a clarinervium here. I'm so thankful that he labels these for me so I know what I'm unwrapping when I do. So I'm pretty happy with that. This is a 4-leaf clarinervium, and you can see probably this guy here is yellowing a little bit. We'll probably end up losing him, but otherwise the other 3 leaves are in excellent condition. Very happy with that. Let's see what the roots look like. The paper is still relatively moist, not overly saturated. And that, my friends, is a beautiful, healthy root structure on this clarinervium. I'm just thrilled with that. All right, what do we have next? Okay, we've got a crystallinum, again, which seem to be a little bit smaller than the clarinerviums. This one is quite a bit smaller than I was expecting, but let's see, it's all in the roots, so let's see how robust this root system is. I have to say this is so far the first one that does not have a single yellowing leaf out of 5 leaves, so that is very, very pleasing. Beautiful. It's got a small root system, but the plant itself is fairly small, so that's understandable. But look at those leaves, guys. Aren't they beautiful? This is why it's called the crystallinum. All right, we've got another clarinervium. So far, so good. I am pleased as punch with this order so far. I think we're about halfway through. So we definitely have some yellowing leaves on this guy, the clarinervium, but that's why whenever I import plants, and if I'm able to see the specimens before they're packed and shipped, I try to encourage the sellers to give me a selection of plants with more than just 1 or 2 leaves, because that way I can afford to lose 1 or 2 in shipping. It's oftentimes inevitable depending on the species. Some ship better than others, and of course, the nightmare would be having a horrible root system that isn't going to be healthy upon arrival, or a single leaf that may not survive after shipping, because then the plant won't be able to produce any new energy, especially when it's trying to recover and acclimatize to wherever you live. Another beautiful root system. Very happy with that. Yes, it does have 2 leaves that we'll probably lose. They are the younger ones, so that is not surprising, but otherwise a very healthy looking specimen of the clarinervium. Next up, we've got the, I believe, since there are 2 plants in this package, I believe that these are the 2 philodendron dark lords that I ordered. They are quite sizable and actually quite heavy, so I'm hoping that lends itself to a pretty strong and big and established root system, giving the package so much weight. We'll find out. Wow. This is just stunning. 3 perfectly healthy leaves. Looks like there's another one on the way there. Let's see what those roots look like. So I know now why this was so heavy. It looks like it's been taken from one of the mother plants. Nice big healthy chunk there. It does not have a really robust root system, but you know what? There's so much energy stored in this trunk, I bet, that it should pop out some new roots fairly quickly. But I'm thrilled with the condition. Look how big these leaves are. All right. I've got one more Dark Lord. Oh, wow. This is just stunning. We've got 4 leaves, 1 unfurling, which is incredible. I do think that this one in the back here, it's turning a little bit yellow, so I'm not surprised we'll probably lose that one, but my goodness, the rest of the leaves look very, very healthy. Let's see what the root system looks like. So this one I've got to be very delicate with because it looks like it's a single root as well and without the chunk, so hopefully it doesn't get pulled off with the tissue paper. Okay, so the root's not in the greatest condition, but there are plenty of nodes at the base, so I'm sure that we can regenerate some of those roots, and there's some good aerial roots going on here. But I'm thrilled with just the quality of the leaves and the health of them. It's a nice big specimen. And last but not least, we've got 5 more plants. And if I recall, they are all Aglaonema pictum tricolors, which is one of my most favorite plants. I think the foliage is incredibly unique. It looks like camouflage. I especially like them when they have quite a bit of variegation between the white, the light green, and the dark. So let's see what these guys look like. Now, I have to say, you know, importing can be terrifying. Finding the right seller, communication. Once it's paid for and shipped, then you are in the hands of the Postal Service. These came DHL Express. That is really the only way I would ever recommend shipping. I've had 3 shipments so far, all from the same seller. I have to say that his communication is absolutely top-notch. He cares for his plants beautifully, and you can tell in the packaging, the communication. He is big on customer service, which I really appreciate because honestly, that's what ends the cycle. If the plants aren't healthy or if there's an issue, he's always willing to communicate, always easy to get a hold of. He's been very kind to me, especially because this was the first import experience I ever had when I first shipped from him in March. And he was so communicative and made me feel so comfortable that I ordered again with this shipment. And so far, I am very, very happy. Okay, now he did let me know he was a little concerned about the pictums. I can see here that he has actually layered the pictums, each individual leaf, with a piece of tissue paper. Wow, what care. All right. So that is pictum number 1. I'm pretty happy with that. I know these guys do not ship particularly well, which is another reason why they are so sought after. Plenty of leaves to make it through. This one will probably be a goner here. The stems are not quite as thick as I thought they'd be. I thought they'd be a little bit more mature, but you know what? If these are top cuttings, I understand. Let's see what the roots look like. Sometimes it's tricky to find the ends of these pieces of tissue paper. All right. So luckily, even though I've heard horror stories from some people that have been importing recently, these don't look like they've been heat treated. They look great, actually, in great condition. So they seem to have made it through customs just fine. Look at that root system, guys. It's perfectly healthy. It's really quite robust. I know that Aglaonemas usually do put out a good root system. So this leaf here, and maybe this one that's not doing so hot, doesn't bother me. I know that this one will go on to be a very healthy, viable plant. Also, he's given me quite a long stem here, so worst case, if something were to happen, I know that I'd be able to cut it down, and hopefully some new roots would shoot up from these nodes here. All right, we've got 4 of these to go. I'm definitely one of those people that don't like to put all of their eggs in one basket. So usually when I do import, I try to get more than one of each specimen for a few reasons. One, it of course ups my chances for getting a healthy, viable plant of that type. Secondly, it also gives me a little bit of knowledge base as far as how these guys do in shipment. For instance, going back to the Clarinervium versus the crystallinum, although they were smaller, they didn't seem to have the leaf damage, which was minor to say the least, that the Clarinerviums had. There was at least a yellow leaf or 2 on those. Luckily, there were plenty of leaves still viable. So that's something I'll note. Obviously, the philodendron, you know, large chunks, smaller root systems, but they seem to ship just fine as far as the foliage is concerned. So once again, he's gone to the trouble of individually layering each and every one of these leaves. So let's see how this one fared. No, not as well as the other one. We have a new leaf just starting to uncurl. So this one has 3 out of 5, if I don't count that tiny little baby leaf there. So not great, but again, you know, 2 very, very good strong leaves, nice long stem with what I'm sure has plenty of nodes. I'm confident that the roots are going to be as good, if not better, than the one I just unwrapped. So this is the risk you take with imports. I'm unbothered. If you're expecting to get picture perfect Instagram worthy plants right out of the box from an import, you're just going to be disappointed. You got to take the knocks. They are not going to be perfect. They need to be healthy enough that they're going to be salvageable. They will need to go through an acclimatization period for at least a month or so, probably more depending on the time of year and where you're located. I usually give them about 3 to 6 months before I even consider selling them on or propagating from them or whatever it may be, although to be honest, propagation probably won't happen for a year or so. Again, great root system. Plenty of nodes on this long pictum. The leaves that seem to not make it as well are the older leaves. They're lower on the stem here, other than that tiny little baby leaf here, which will come off. But otherwise, 2 very healthy leaves here. Love the patterning. Very happy with that. So 2 out of 5 so far are great. I'm happy with that. I think that with importing, the biggest thing I could tell people is set your expectations. If you're, like I said, expecting perfect plants out of the box, importing is not for you. If you're willing to lose a few plants along the way, and try your hand at some of the species that are quite a bit more expensive in the States, it's not really a case of you get what you pay for, because obviously we want a seller, and I do luckily have a seller who sends excellent high quality plants that are fairly mature, but it comes with the process of importing. You're bound to lose any, and that's not anyone's fault. That's just part of the process. It's not for everyone. I find it a little addicting just because it's like Christmas every time I open up a new package. I also like the challenge. Not saying that I wouldn't love to have picture perfect plants out of the box, but I'm up for a challenge and I like to monitor the plants and see how they do day to day. So this doesn't faze me. This one has a really interesting, almost serrated looking edge to its leaf. I don't know if you can see that, but all the leaves here are actually kind of serrated. I've never seen that before, but that's kind of neat. This one has a new leaf that looks pretty healthy. Hopefully that one survives. One leaf out of 2 and one unfurling is yellow, so that'll probably come off, but not too concerned about that. So typically when I import, depending on the condition of the roots and what the packaging was like, if obviously the tissue paper was totally saturated, I would probably put it right into like a perlite mixture so it wouldn't be retaining too much water. Let them kind of settle into a perlite mixture in either a pot or a net pot. These guys so far, they've been just right. The roots have been healthy. So I'll probably go ahead just for 24 hours and go ahead and put them in water so they can kind of rehydrate, settle in, and then I will probably in about maybe 3 or 4 days or so, depending on the individual plant, I'll probably go ahead and repot these into a nice chunky mix to make sure that they aren't going to get too waterlogged, and let those roots hopefully settle in and generate a few new ones, and then just keep monitoring them. Obviously keep them out of super direct light so that they don't have to get stunned with too much light and a new environment. All right, these roots are a little rotten at the bottom. There are a couple in here that are pretty good, but as you can see, some of them are stuck to the toilet paper or to the tissue paper. Those are the ones that aren't gonna make it. You can usually tell right away with the ones that are gonna make it versus the ones that aren't. So we've got a few little spindly ones here that are rotted, but for the most part, they're popping out of all the nodes, and there are a few pretty good robust ones here. So we'll keep an eye on this one. We might do a little root trimming just to get rid of the ones that are damaged before putting it in water so that the rot doesn't spread. All right, thanks for sticking with me. We've got 2 more to go. Now I also noticed that these were the first to go in the box. They were at the bottom, and not to say they were squished by any means, but perhaps next time it might be better to put them on top just so that they aren't sat upon by other plants. But then again, the box is not guaranteed to stay one direction or another, so I guess it doesn't really much matter to disregard, if you will. But I know he did absolutely everything he possibly could to make sure that these plants arrived to me as healthy as possible within his control. So I appreciate that. And I was about to let him know, but then I realized it's about 5 o'clock in the morning in Indonesia, and I'm pretty excited about them, but I did not want to disrupt his sleep. So I'll wait to send him a message until later tonight, let him start his morning. Hopefully wake up to a nice message from me with some pictures to let him know that they arrived not only on time, but actually early. They were scheduled to arrive on Wednesday, and I saw that they had made it through Cincinnati yesterday, and knowing from my past shipments, typically once they've gone through Cincinnati, they usually make it to me within 24 hours. So I was very, very hopeful that they would arrive early, and they sure did. So what a great way to start my Monday. All right. So the big thing with aglaonemas is they do not like to be overwatered. I learned that the hard way with my pictum that I actually bought in the States. It was a pretty penny. I almost lost it to root rot. Luckily, I caught it before it was too late, and it is recovering at the moment. I actually think it's about to flower, which would be great. Now, this one seems to have a little bit of webbing on the back of one of these leaves that's yellow. So obviously I'm gonna get rid of that leaf as soon as possible. So just in case it's some sort of a infestation, it won't spread. It might just be, I'm not sure actually, but it does look like a little bit of webbing. Not quite like spider mites, but definitely from an insect of some sort. But so far, I haven't found any insects on these plants other than just that little bit of webbing on the back of that yellow leaf that should be coming off anyhow. Okay. Great. So this one has good root system. It does have some ends that are a little bit spindly. They're clearly rotted. So we'll probably give this a little bit of a trim. Hopefully the rot doesn't spread to the top, but the stem is nice and firm. So this is definitely salvageable and will grow on quite nicely. It did have quite a few, I'd say probably out of all of them, this one's in the worst condition as far as yellowing leaves are concerned. But I'm very happy with the variegation on it. As I mentioned, this leaf has, and I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it, but has some white webbing there, right where the stem meets the leaf. So we're gonna get rid of him immediately. We're actually gonna probably pull off all of these yellowing leaves just for safety, just to make sure that nothing spreads to the other plants, let alone the rest of my collection. Okay. Okay, so that's what we're left with. Still, not bad. 3 leaves, not bad at all. All right, and last one to go. One thing I learned when I did my imports the first time was when they would come packaged in the tissue wrap, I would pull them off like a sleeve. Don't do that. That's how you lose leaves faster, or they come off. They need some time to just harden off a little bit after their journey. So now I make sure to just unwrap it completely and not pull it off like a sleeve. Live and learn, right? All right. This one is pretty good. We've got one yellowing leaf here, just starting to yellow. One yellowing leaf here, but other than that, look at those 3 leaves. Look at the variegation on those. Isn't that stunning? This one's my favorite so far for the pictums. So with the houseplant craze going absolutely bonkers through the pandemic and just this year in general, even before the pandemic, I saw a big uptick. I've seen a huge transition into species that were at the beginning of the year almost unheard of to find in the States. Now they're becoming much more available, which lends me to believe that people started importing earlier in the year, especially during the pandemic, and are now producing them from home. So it's interesting to see the trends, see what's popular now, see what's kind of not so popular, what's become kind of common. I personally am not a huge trendy houseplant person. I try to stay away from the fads. I personally choose the plants and the species that I like, whatever brings me joy. Not to steal from Mary Kondo here, but this is one of my favorites. It also happens to be my husband's favorite because the leaves look like camouflage. So he fell in love with the one that I had gotten some time ago. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna get a few more. Why not? So this one, as you can see, the stem is quite white, so that gives me the thought that perhaps it was in water or in a little bit more moisture than the other ones. The root system is a little wanting on this one, a little bit sad looking. I'll probably do some root trimming just to get rid of the ones that are clearly rotted. I think that if I pull some of them a little bit, then they'll expose, the casing will come off and expose that little fine hair inside. But pretty darn happy with that foliage. Look at that. And look at the size of it as well. It's a good long stem. It's got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nodes, which is fantastic. So that's that. All right, so that is all of the plants from the box. Now what I'm going to do is I'm gonna go ahead and put these guys in some jars that I have already set to go. Let them recover for at least 24 hours. Play it by ear, let the roots kind of reestablish themselves a little bit. Get them to plump up after their journey, get a much needed drink. All right. So what I like to do first is I like to first place them in the jars without the water, and then I add the water based on you know, how much coverage I want on each jar. So we're actually going to put the pictums. We're going to put a couple together just because I don't have 12 jars set ready right now. There we go. So that's the pictums done. And always crouch down when you're filling the water level because of course there's distortion with the glass. You don't want to fill too much or too little. There we go. So through till about there. Do this beautiful alocasia. Let's see. Yeah, this root is unfortunately come off. It was rotted anyhow, so this should be all right. Now with alocasias, I do not submerge the entire this stem here. I do not want it all the way in water at the base because the base will rot. So I'm very careful with the water level with these. Height. So really only until there. See, there you go. The base is not submerged. Okay. Do these beautiful little crystallinums, Sinclair nerviums. I'm actually going to put 2 in one vessel just because they are so small, and I don't want, let's see, that'll fit in there nicely. Perfect. Perfect. This has got quite the root system. Look how thick those roots are. Wow. Get some more water. Okay, my crystal hope. Beautiful. And now for the big guns. Let's see. I don't even know if this is going to fit in here. Now this Dark Lord, because I think I'm going to lose that single root, will probably stay in water for some time until it is growing some more roots out of the stem. Got the big kahuna. right. So this, all right, so there's a little bit of rot in the center here. I can see that. It's a little bit moist there. The underside is nice and firm, but I'll have to watch it. I probably won't leave this guy in water much more than 24 hours just to make sure that it doesn't develop a squishy growing stem. Yeah, we'll watch him. But for right now, these guys are settled in for the evening, and I'll keep you posted on their progress. And oh yeah, before I forget, I'm going to disclose to you who my source is, and I think that his work should be rewarded. I think his passion for the plants, as much as mine, should be rewarded. And you know, I'm a share. What can I say? My source is a gentleman in Indonesia named MBEF Plants. His name is Andrian. His English is fluent. He's lovely. He's a gentleman. He's always called me ma'am until I told him he didn't have to any longer. My understanding is that his uncle is also in plants as well, so he has some sources there. I can't say better things about him. This is just the communication has been fantastic. He has made things whole with an issue that I had, not with him, but some of the plants unfortunately came dead on arrival at one point, and he was very kind about it and made me whole. I will certainly be ordering from him again in future. I encourage you guys to check him out. He has a tremendous amount of selection. His prices are very, very fair, especially during this shortage of houseplants that we're experiencing in the United States for certain species. Packaging is fantastic. He is very, very conscientious about sending you all of the shipping information the second he has it. He even keeps up to date with your shipment and will send me notifications before I even receive them. So I truly appreciate that. But MBEF Plants on Facebook. I don't believe he has an Instagram, but his name is Andrian. And my name is Monica, and I wish you all a phenomenal evening, and I appreciate you spending the time with me as I carefully and anxiously unbox this plant import from Indonesia. Enjoy your evening. Talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.